Hello, this is Steve Stallings, and this presentation is for the Avantiico Freight Invoice Automation ISV module that is part of the Dynamics 365 Finance and Supply Chain solution. This module is used for automated freight reconciliation, and this is the first in a series of demos that will cover major components of that solution. This first demo will cover freight bills and estimates, followed by a second presentation on carrier invoices, and then matching rules, reconciliation and invoicing, and finally analytics and reporting. So in this first demo, we're only going to cover the freight estimate process and importing freight bills from wherever they're generated, then reviewing those freight bills within Dynamics 365 Freight Invoice Automation, and the financial accrual that goes along with those. So essentially, if we look at the standard transportation management module within Dynamics 365 Finance and Supply Chain, some companies choose to use this module for generating and managing their freight rates. They do that by setting up freight rates for loads. And here we've selected a specific load number 000032. And it's an outbound load for products being shipped out of the company. And we're going to go up here to Freight Route Workbench, or Rate Route Workbench, sorry. And we have two options here. We can either rate shop, which will present us a series of possible rates for this shipment, and we can pick the lowest cost one or the one that meets our criteria for this customer, or we can simply say rate it, and it will pick the lowest cost route. So that's what I chose here, and it came up with a parcel carrier, standard shipment, $1,220, 300 miles to ship. It'll take 5 days to do it, etc. So all that information was automatically provided once I selected rate this load. The other option that clients have, and this is what most clients do, they use external third-party transportation management systems. So we have the ability to import these freight bills from those third-party systems as well. This is an example of a CSV file that we've received from a third-party transportation management system that has the same basic information in it. The freight billing ID, the billing dates, the customer ID, the freight rates, the reference information if it's provided, the tracking number, the carrier, and all the type of shipment, all that information as well. So this is the same type of information, but rather than originating within Dynamics 365 Transportation Management Module, this came from an external third-party system. Both of these transactions are going to be processed through our API within the Freight Invoice Automation module and be imported into our system. And those imports come in as freight bill imports. They can come in as the CSV files that I just showed you, or they can be directly pulled in from the Transportation Management module. From there, they'll become imported freight bill files that have been vetted, and I'll talk to that process in a couple of minutes, and finally show up as freight bills that can be processed through the reconciliation and matching rules. So to import that file, we simply select the file that we just looked at. We then define that we're going to import it and hit OK at the bottom of the page, and we end up with a series of imported freight bills. Now, you'll notice that these are processed, and this is a list of freight bills, but they don't all come in as processed. They actually come in as unprocessed. Then we import them. Then they're ready for review. We validate that there are no errors in that, and then we finally give them a status of processed when we've converted them to standard freight bills. The only step in this process that requires any manual intervention at all is validating that there are no errors in the file. And that's done in the top left where you see the list, general and error. You can open any one of these files and see if there are any errors associated with it. As long as there are no errors, everything else is fully automated, and these freight bills end up in the system as freight bills in the Freight Invoice Automation module. And these freight bills are now ready to be compared to carrier invoices at a later date to validate that there's a match, or reconciled if there's not a match to those carrier invoices. So at this point, we've got 0000168 as a validated freight bill, FedEx ground, and we can then look at the details for that freight bill, and we can see, who the customer is, what the address is it's shipping to, what the tracking number is, all that same information that was in the CSV file. And as we scroll down the page, we can also see the freight costs. In this case, we've got freight of $87 on this line, fuel charge of $3, which is an accessorial fee, and miscellaneous charge of $10. So we get down to the cost component level when processing these freight bills, if that information is provided in the freight rate tables, so that we can match those at that level of detail with the carrier invoices later. And then finally, at the bottom of the page, you can see that we've automatically accrued this so that the finance organization is aware that this liability exists, and we're eventually going to have to pay this freight bill or dispute it, but pay it at any rate so that the carrier invoice is satisfied. So that is the freight import process that we wanted to cover in this first short video. So that can come from the Dynamics Warehouse Management System or any other warehouse or transportation management system. Those freight estimates are ingested, imported as freight bills, validated, and then the accruals are made to the finance organization so they're aware of the liabilities being incurred. In the next demo, we'll go into the carrier invoice import process. Thank you very much.